freshman year, I met this boy, and we started dating. After about maybe like 8 months of dating, that's when we started to get more involved, and we had sex, and within about a month of having sex, I got pregnant. I went to go tell my parents that I was pregnant. We had this big discussion, and my dad's just like, doesn't show his emotions and like that. And when I told him when I was pregnant, that's the only time, and ever since then, the only time I've ever seen him cry. And he just said that I just ended up being like a statistic like everyone else. My dad didn't talk to me throughout my whole pregnancy. He wouldn't even look at me. We never talked about it. Originally, throughout school, I was known as like, I guess, the smart girl. Always got good grades and everything. And then once people found out I was pregnant, they would just say things like, oh, well, I guess she's not so smart since she did get pregnant, because only dumb girls get pregnant. And I was never really known as like the studious girl anymore. I was just known as that one girl that got pregnant. I worked really hard throughout high school just to prove that it's still in my mind that I have to do so much better, not even just in school, but the way I parent, because I feel like if I mess up, people look at me, oh, you messed up because you're a teen mom, not because you're a new mom. I started coming to church, and I met the youth minister, Michael, and she started explaining to me who God was. And I started coming more to church, and she would take time outside of just ask me what my relationship with God was, and would I like to pursue a stronger relationship with God, that everything would be better with God no matter what happened. Sometimes I would think that I could never have a relationship with God just because I messed up so much, just having sex before marriage and then having a child at that. I just felt like I was like all like broken down in that. I wasn't going to be able to be fixed. And the youth minister Michael told me that it was okay, that you don't need to do anything to earn God's trust or love. All you have to do is accept him and you're good. And it took me a really long time to understand that. Despite my relationship with my parents improving, me being able to raise Xavier and my good grades, I still felt empty inside, even though I had good things in my life. And I explained that to the youth minister here, and she explained to me that the reason I feel like that is because I was missing God in my life. And I did understand that, and it hit me. And then I told her that I wanted to accept Christ into my life. Ever since then, I don't really feel empty inside anymore. So wrapped up in so many emotions and situations and bad relationships with your parents and abusive relationships with the father of your son. It's just hard to imagine something better when you're covered up with all that stuff. But it's possible, and I think I did it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miss Reed, Cynthia Reed, and I'd like to welcome you to Sister to Sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the forum where we will discuss single mothers, and the challenges of today that they are facing, ladies and gentlemen. Our guests today are Miss Dye to my left and Miss Reed to my right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Sister to Sisters. Miss Dye, I'd like to welcome you personally, and I'd like to start out with our first question of the evening. What has been your most difficult hurdle of being a single mother, and how did you overcome it?
Well, keeping a roof over my children's head, child care was one of the biggest issues for me, trying to have someone to watch my children and go to work. And in order to do that, I had to keep a job and keep a roof over my children's head. So that was very difficult for me. I overcame it. Well, I switched to a third shift job. That way I can take my kids to school and pick them up, so that switching my shift was a success for me. So I didn't need, really no child care. I didn't have to depend on people to take my kids back and forth to school.
So now, as a single mother, how long have you been a third shifter since it's worked out so well for you?
about 8 years.
Okay.
About 8 years.
Okay, so that basically would be half of a child's life
Yes.
till they get to be an adult almost. Okay, well, I thank you. We'll turn that same question over to Ms. Reed. Again, what has been your largest hurdle of being a single mother, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I have two children, and so one of the biggest hurdles was my son lost his father when he was very young, and probably around the same time I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So that was a big struggle trying to make the adjustment with figuring out how to parent him by myself, and get him help and assistance that he needed because he was dealing with a lot of angst and stress and anxiety from that loss. Relying on the people I had around me was helpful. I was kind of overwhelmed because I was going to school, I was working, I had a young child, I was pregnant with another child. So for me, having to sit down and figure out the priorities and step back from some of those things, I couldn't do it all. So I withdrew from school for a little while to focus on what was important. And that allowed me to be able to really get him the help he needed, and also help me to be able to work a little bit more so that I can have the money to be able to help me to take care of the two children that I now had. And then really relying on the people in my life, family, friends, that really helped me because they were able to kind of give me some support that I needed during those times.
Okay. So it sounds in both of our conversations that childcare has become, it prevents you from parenting almost the way that you want to parent because you've got so many restrictions between the cost of childcare, which is enormous.
Child care is more than you pay for a house nowadays, for a mortgage. And I mean, literally, I remember paying $700-800 a month for child care, and that was with assistance. So just imagine.
And not only that, trusting people to watch your children as well. That's a big issue. That was a big one. You know, having to trust people you really don't want to trust, but you have to go to work. You know, so that was a big issue for me too.
Okay. The next question that I propose to you is, during the time of being a mother, we have a tendency to not take care of ourselves. We deplenish ourselves. So what have you done in the essence of self-care? What have you done as a mother to ensure that you take care of yourself, both, at home, and at work? So we'll lead off with Pam.
I started realizing, like for work, when I'm at work, I take some time. I don't take smoke breaks or anything like that. I'll just go outside and sit in my car. Maybe I'll take a notepad. I can't tell you how many notebooks I have at home, so I like to write. But as far as self-care, I'm still struggling with that. It's a daily struggle. I find myself, I'm one of those people that puts everything before myself. I'll drain myself before I even think to do anything. So I'm still working on trying to find that balance for myself, but a lot of times I kind of disappear and hide out from my kids, whether it's like in the bathroom or I'll sit in the car when I first get home for 10-15 minutes just to digress. But I try to really, to do anything for myself, I really have to schedule it out because that's the only way I'll make myself do it. A lot of things require deposits and things now, for even hair appointments, nail appointments. So I feel like if I make that commitment, I don't like to lose money, so I'm going to go through with it. But I have to almost force myself to do things for myself, which isn't ideal, but.
How do you take care of yourself in the midst of, being a single parent?
Well, my mind frame is go hard all week, school, kids, work, and then on the weekends, those are the times I try to take time for myself. I love to watch movies, so I watch a lot of movies. I might listen to some music. Cleaning up is one of my big things that helps me relax. It may sound a little crazy, but cleaning up church, you know, things like that. But in order for me to enjoy my peace, like on the weekend for self-care, I have to make sure I take care of everything else first. That's the only how I'll be able to relax. If I take care of everything through the week, you know, the kids, doctor's appointment, homework, you know, things in that nature, then that helped me relax, and
Take care of you.
yeah, take care of me.
I know we were talking earlier before the recording that we were talking about how you have to take care of yourself. You can't keep giving, and we're always last on the list.
Yeah, when you put everything before you and don't take time out for yourself, you can find yourself depressed, stressed out, frustrated, and it's unhealthy. So we have to make sure we find the time for ourselves to, practice self-love. We put our kids first, of course, and we put everything first, but sometimes we have to put ourselves first as well.
Absolutely.
Being a little selfish is we sometimes have to do that. Have to
Yeah.
take that time. Like, no, I'm gonna do this for me. I have to. You have to, and I agree. Making sure if you get that work done and everything else done during the week, it makes it so much easier to not think about it, because I know when I have things left over that I didn't finish, it's always on my brain. I'm always thinking about it. And then when you're thinking about, it's no way that you can relax when you're constantly thinking about something that is lingering that you have to get done. It's like I'll tend to find myself trying to work on the weekend when it's my time off. Like, no, this is your time. You have to value your time. You really have to sit there and say, this is my time.
And boundaries.
Boundaries are important.
As a single mother is very important. Do you find, Miss Di, this question is for you, well, for both of you, but I'll lead off with Miss Di. Do you find yourself at any point, because we always put them first, do you find that there's any guilt behind taking care of you, or if you need a new pair of shoes for work, or, supply something that you need for you, do you have any guilt? Have you ever had guilt associated with the fact that you're doing something for you, or you're providing something for you? Yes, even though your child might need something.
In a way, no, because when I buy something for me, I have already taken care of my children. So when I go out and have a me day, I feel good about it, because my kids have what they need, the household is good, and I already put me last. So,
Right.
I feel good about it.
Okay, that's good to know. And Ms. Reed, that same question goes to you. Do you have any guilt associated with ever, or do you?
I don't feel guilt about it, but it gets hard to get to the point where I do allow myself to do something or buy myself something, because you always, how often are you out of the store? Or it's hard I can go spend $200 on my kid real easily, but if something I want comes up, it's like, oh, do I really need that? Like, ooh, put half of that back. I'm only gonna spend $50 on myself. Like, we don't give ourselves the same credit we give our kids.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give myself as much as I give them. I always give them more than I give myself, which is really uneven.
It's not
Because
balanced.
That's just how it is. But I don't feel bad as long as I've taken care of what they need and they have everything that they need. They might not have everything they want, but
Everything
they
they
have
need.
everything that they need.
That does.
And a
that
little
does
bit of
make
what
a
they
difference.
want. So I don't feel
Absolutely.
as bad. I don't feel bad doing something for myself at this point.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, let me ask you, as a single mother of men, the challenge we face today of raising young men in today's society, how have you, Miss Di, been able to handle that and handle, parenting with raising a young black man today?
It is hard. It is scary, and I have found myself praying more than I ever had with a young son. I also have found myself calling on men, like in my family, whether it's a brother or my pastor, or even an uncle, to help me deal with my young son. He's a male. He's 20 years old. he's a young man, and I can teach him everything that a man can. So some things I don't understand, with him being a son, because, I'm a woman. So I need, and right now, with him being 20, I still need help, feed my son the things that he needs. I still call him my pastor to this day if I'm having some kind of concerns with my son. I still need that man, in his life, because I know I did the best I could, but he still need that man, on his side to help him, to lead him. So.
And Pamela, for yourself, how do you handle having a son that, today's society and what's going on with the, divide that we've got?
Pray, and more prayer.
Amen.
Asking to keep him covered. I ask for, he has a praying grandparents, praying aunts, uncles. So, and then using, like I said, the people, the positive role models, the positive people in the community that I know or have relationships with to help on that side. Because like Ms. Di said, I'm not a man. I can't even begin to understand what it's like to be a man. So having them for those things that I just don't know how to address with him, or maybe I can address it, but some things aren't well received from a mother to a son. That's just, I don't want to hear that from my mom, just like certain things I don't want to hear from my dad, know. So that really helps me, keeping him, letting them understand, even though you're grown, I still need to know where you are. I share your location because anything can happen, and I need to know that you're not where something is going on. I need to be aware, There's no secrets, you're grown. I'm not going to try and dictate what you're doing. You shouldn't be here. I may, guide you and say, that's probably not a good place to be, but you're grown. Ultimately, I just have to give you the tools to hopefully make the best decisions that you could possibly make and help you when you don't make those decisions. But prayer, prayer. That's all I can say.
Now, this has been something that has been in the headlines as of late, and we know that due to the COVID, that there's been an increase in suicide. This is different, but the question that I propose to you is, because of the things that we've gone through since COVID as a single mother, have you had any anxieties? What have you found to help you overcome some of the concerns that we've had, how we felt, how being isolated? If your children are grown, how have you, handled the empty nest or with one being gone? So how have you handled, Miss Di, we'll begin with you. How have you handled the anxieties of today?
Well, I'm still handling it. I'm still
Okay.
trying.
Amen.
It's different. Sometimes I found myself going into depression because how the world has changed, but I will train my mind to just go to some positive and the good things out of it. That would help me, My kids, things have changed. They used to being out, going to school with other people. And my son actually came to me a while ago was saying he was becoming depressed and stuff because of how the world is, and I had just lost my brother, and it's hard. Like, I have to pray to find the words to say to him, to encourage him, and at the same time, that helped me staying positive and keeping a sane mind, because I have to be there for my children because they're going through the same thing. So I can't really fall weak or fall short because I have to be there for them. So when I start feeling depressed and stressed out about and scared, like I'm scared, I don't want to go nowhere. I just have to start thinking about the positive things that also came out of the COVID situation.
And Pam, how have you handled any anxieties that you may have experienced during this, pandemic?
Well, I'll say at the start of the pandemic, I didn't realize it, but I had developed anxiety and panic attacks and anxiety attacks. I started talking to a therapist, honestly. That was one good outlet for me. I had never thought that was something I would do. Who wants to talk to a stranger? They don't know anything about me. But it gave me such a it allowed me to look inside myself and find the things that are triggers for me, things that kind of bring it on. And then journaling has always helped me. So dealing with that, writing down my thoughts, writing down my emotions. But I actually, like Ms. Dye said, I try to look at the positive, the things that COVID or this situation has brought, slowing everything down. I'm always go, go, go. Everything is always like, there's never enough time. Well, we have nothing but time now. I mean, nothing but time. Allowing me to slow down and, actually spend more time. The kids aren't always gone. They aren't always on the go doing activities because everything kind of ceases. So that gave us time to really sit in ourselves, spend time, talk about things. How are you feeling? And just like she said, praying about what to say when they come to you with these concerns or these issues, because you're their mom. You're supposed to know how to answer them. But sometimes, I was going to say, Ms. Di, when you get that message for your baby, it might have been for you too. Because sometimes we need to hear what we tell somebody else. So a lot of times what I need to tell my daughter is like a lesson right upside my own head. I needed to hear that for myself because I'm struggling in that area either. But we don't try to fix ourselves before we fix our kids. So those are some things that I've been doing since COVID.
As a little thought, I've always heard that when there's a message to be given and you give the message also has a tendency to be for you. There's something that you're saying to someone, and it's like, did I just say that I should have been hearing myself? So it's and as single mothers, it's, we try to take the weight of the world on our shoulders. There's no perfect way to do it, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we need this forum to be able to explain and to divulge how we feel and what we go through as single mothers. What would you say to a single mother today? What advice would you offer?
Just keep going. Stay focused. And if you have any negative distractions in your life, get rid of them. Pray. Go hard. Sometimes I go so much that if I stopped and thought about everything that I was doing, I would probably go crazy. You just got to do it. Just do it. And you're going to make mistakes. I've made so many mistakes as a teen parent growing up, but my mistakes, I used them and turned them into positive things. I learned from them because I had no one to teach me or show me. So my mistakes were good. I didn't feel like that at the time, but as time got to going on, my mistakes taught me what other people didn't. People looked down on me, probably whispered and judged me instead of helping me. So don't feel bad. You're going to make mistakes. Just learn from them. Just learn from them.
Pam, is there any advice that you could offer to a single mother who's, not sure exactly what she's doing and how she's doing it?
You're not always going to get it right. That's just not, there's not a manual to do it. There's not an instruction guide. You're not always going to get it right. Don't try to live up to what other people's expectations are of you, because you're going to let them down every single time, almost. You can't live for other people. You have to do the best that you can do, and always just try to push forward. Find strength in reaching out to people. If you have anybody that you value in your life, you appreciate, talk to them, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We struggle with that. We think we're some superwoman and you're going to be carrying a lot, but there are people who are willing to help you. All you have to do is ask. And sometimes you don't even have to ask, but don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to just push forward and give it everything that you have. It may not always seem like it's working out at the time, but I tell you, when it gets greater later.
Yeah, and do what you got to do. I don't care what it is. It was times I had to catch the bus just to get my kids back and forth to school. I didn't care who judged me, who looked at me. It didn't matter. That's why you have to stay focused and let go of all the distractions. When you're distracted, you worry about what people say and and all this, and that mess don't mean nothing. You have to stay focused. You have to just go hard. You have to do what you got to do. I don't care if you have to walk. I have to walk a few times to get my kids from school. If I didn't have a ride, sometimes I didn't even have nobody to ask. So it's okay to not have somebody sometimes. You know what I mean? It builds you and it makes you stronger and it makes you a better mother. So.
Yeah, and just because you need something or you're lacking something doesn't make you a bad parent. No. I can't tell you the times I've always had a job. I've always worked, even when I was young and had kids. But sometimes the ends don't meet. And couldn't get assistance, couldn't get any help from the state because I made too much money because I worked, but not really enough to take care of my family. And I've had people show up to my job with bags of groceries for me. And me being the person I am, that made me feel like horrible, like somebody got to buy me groceries. I can't even feed my kids. But now looking back, that was a blessing. God was using them to help me to get where I need. And I had to and after I got over that shock, it was appreciation. Like, you know what, you didn't have to. You in your own pocket and did something for me that you didn't have to do. These aren't your kids. And if nothing more, if I didn't eat a kernel of the food she gave, at least I knew my child had what they needed to sustain them, Amen. So be appreciative and don't look down because someone's trying to help you because you feel like you're being charity or something like that. Sometimes God is using them to bless you in some kind of way. Don't block your blessings. Just don't block your blessings.
Amen. Amen.
Mentoring in the body of Christ is so important. It's a biblical principle called discipling, and it happens one-on-one or one to a very few. We even see that illustrated through Jesus Christ, who called these 12. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of people who were always around him, but there were these 12 that he poured himself into more poignantly. And of those 12, there were 3 that were even more close to him and even in a more inner circle in relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think that's one thing that might be missing a little bit in the body of Christ as our numbers have grown, as we've got mega churches spotting the planet, thousands upon thousands of us coming together. We may have lost the importance of this one-on-one discipleship, of kind of putting your eyes on someone that you can impart to them and pass on to them what it is that God has given you. So Titus 2 says it plainly in regards to women. It says, one woman needs to find another woman, an older woman in the faith, in age, maturity level, needs to be looking for and seeking out a younger woman who she can help to come along and be a godly woman that can hear, well done, good and faithful servant at the end of her life. But do you know what that also means? It means there have to be some younger women who are actually teachable, who have a learning spirit about them, who want to hear what someone else has to offer. The most incredible thing we can do for each other is to look beyond ourselves and our own need for someone else to pour into us. Yes, that's important too, but also make sure that we're focusing our attention on someone else. And if there's a number one way you can do that, that's by modeling in your own life, in your own personal relationships, in your own family, in your own ministry. It's by modeling it through your temperament, through how you handle difficulty, how you turn your attention to the Lord instead of trying to fix everything yourself. As other people are watching you make wise decisions and follow the Lord with your whole heart, that in and of itself is going to be discipling them to be someone who brings honor to the Lord through their life.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for visiting. I'd like to thank those that are tuning in today. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this has touched someone and been uplifting to someone that has been in listening today. I would like to say that James 5, verse, I think 5 and 6 refers to going through trials and tribulations, and trials and tribulations gives us, we persevere, and through perseverance it gives us hope. So even though there is a struggle sometimes associated with being a single mother, as my guests have stated, there are struggles, but you've heard from 2 different viewpoints of how those struggles have been overcome. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this has been a blessing to you. I thank you again for visiting with Sister to Sisters. I'd like to thank my guests, Miss Dye and Miss Reed, for being on my panel this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I would also like to encourage you to go onto the website, fairhavensda.org and esdac.org and register for our upcoming program, ladies and gentlemen. Please register again, and we look forward to seeing you for Sister to Sisters. Have a blessed night.